Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome to class. Today we'll have a very brief description and discussion on Einar Ingvald Haugen and his work in linguistics. He has pioneered a special field called linguistic ecology or ecolinguistics. He has worked on language planning and language policy apart from his core linguistic publications. Haugen was born on 19th April 1906 and died on June 20th, 1994. Haugen was an American linguist, prolific author, and professor at the University of Wisconsin-Madison and Harvard University. Haugen is credited with having pioneered American social linguistics, and he is regarded as the leading scholar within the fields of Norwegian American studies with specific reference to Old Norse studies, bilingual behavior, and dialects. He was the first to construct the phenomenon of ecology of language, with which he pioneered a new field called ecolinguistics or linguistic ecology. He published a Norwegian English dictionary. His works are immense and they had deep impact on the emergence of this new discipline. He created a background for the discipline, and his work is seen as stepping stone in the emergence of social linguistics in America. Haugen was born in Iowa to a Norwegian immigrant's parents, and when he was young, he went back to Norway for a very brief period of time, and then the family returned to United States. He completed his BA in 1928 and then went for graduate studies in Scandinavian languages under Professor George T. Flom at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign and got his PhD in 1931. He had a very accomplished academic journey, and in 1931, after finishing his PhD, he joined the faculty of the University of Wisconsin-Madison and stayed there until 1962. A very long spell of time he spent at University of Wisconsin-Madison. He became Victor S. Thomas Professor of Scandinavian and Linguistics at Harvard University in 1964 and stayed there until his retirement in 1975. Haugen served as president of the Linguistic Society of America, American Dialect Society, and Society for Advancement of Scandinavian Study. He served as a member of Board of Editors of the Norwegian American Historical Association, and in 1972 he was awarded an honorary degree Doctor of Philosophy, honoris causa at the Norwegian Institute of Technology. So, Huygens worked in the early phase of development of the discipline, and he retired in 1975. He continued working after retirement as well, but he retired in 1975. By that time, social linguistics was emerging as an independent discipline. You recall the early 1960s and late 70s, that is the 2 decades, and Huygens becomes instrumental in preparing the stepping stone for the discipline, and his contributions cannot be undermined. His specific reference to his work in Scandinavian languages, Old Norse, and dialectal studies. He worked on language planning and policy, and he gave a definite phenomenon and idea about language planning. His work pioneered a new subfield called linguistic ecology or ecolinguistics, which is thriving now. If you look at the contributions and publications he did in the discipline, this list is not exhaustive, but I have tried to document and include some representative publications of Huygens which changed the course of understanding language in society. In 1942, he published Voyages to Vinland, the first American saga. In 1946, he published Spoken Norwegian, a book. Then in 1953, he published The Norwegian Language in America, a study in bilingual behavior. In 1956, he published Bilingualism in the Americas. In 1957, he published The Semantics of Icelandic Orientation. In 1966, he came up with Language Conflict and Language Planning, the Case of Modern Norwegian, which remains one of the most important reference documents in language planning, understanding language planning and policy. And that was the fertile time when newly constituted states which got freedom from colonial forces, and there in quotes, linguistic situation was seen chaotic. Then the issue of planning and policy became very prominent, and many linguists contributed. He is one of them, one of the first people who talked about language policy and planning, and his work on Norwegian language policy and planning is of immense importance that inspires a number of works followed. Then on the occasion of his 65th birthday, a volume was brought out in 1971, Studies by Einar Huygens, presented on the occasion of his 65th birthday. Yet another important publication, The Ecology of Language, Language Science and National Development, which pioneered a new subfield in the discipline, published in 1972. Then he created Norwegian English Dictionary, a pronouncing and translating dictionary of modern Norwegian, published in 1974. The Scandinavian languages, an introduction to their history, a very resourceful publication, was published in 1976. Bibliography of Scandinavian Languages and Linguistics from 1900 to 1970, published in 1974, which is an exhaustive volume to understand and have information about Scandinavian works, linguistic works, for 70 years of long period of time. Scandinavian Language Structures, published in 1982 after his retirement. Blessings of Babel, Bilingualism and Language Planning, published in 1987. Immigrant Idealists, a literary biography of Valdemar Eger, Norwegian American, 1989. O-Label, Norway's romantic musician and cosmopolitan patriot, 1993. So these are some select bibliography of Haugen and his contribution to the field. But he worked specifically in three major areas: language planning and policy, linguistic ecology, bilingualism, dialectology, and overall Scandinavian studies, Scandinavian language studies and Norwegian, which remain a very rich resource to understand Scandinavian languages. On Haugen's contribution, Bernard Spolsky writes in his article, Ferguson and Fishman, Sociolinguistics and Sociology of Language, the Sage Handbook of Sociolinguistics. I quote from there, Haugen was by 1963 a senior scholar. After 30 years as chair of Scandinavian Studies at the University of Wisconsin, he was about to take up a chair in Scandinavian and linguistics at Harvard. He had taught a course on bilingualism at the 1948 Linguistic Institute, and his book on Norwegian language in America, 1953, established him as the leading authority on bilingualism and language shift. He was the first linguist to write about the ecology of language. The title of his 1972 collected papers, his study of Norwegian language planning, Haugen 1966, was a groundbreaking work. I unquote from Bernard Spolsky. Haugen remains an authority on Scandinavian studies in America. He remains an authority on language planning. He remains an authority on bilingualism, and he remains authority on linguistic ecology of linguistic ecology, or what we call ecolinguistics. So Haugen's contribution to the discipline is immense, and he is one of the founding members and founding fathers of the discipline. His work goes a long way in understanding the language as a phenomena in society, and his versatile presence, work in the field will inspire generations to come. We are still inspired, and anyone who takes up work in language policy and planning, linguistic ecology, bilingualism, or dialectology cannot undermine and ignore Haugen and his work. This is it for now about Haugen. We will continue our discussion on other eminent scholars in the field and their work. Thank you very much.